So we must go at it from the side. The Russians have thought this out well. The T-34s are well camouflaged and sitting deep in their holes. Our Air Force was unable to identify these targets, although with artillery there can't be much accomplished. Oh well, thus we attempt to take a big detour and are moving in a southerly direction away from the threat. Along with us are two Panzer III, as well as an armored personnel carrier with pioneers in case we should encounter any further surprises. The remaining tanks of our spearhead keep engaging the enemy so that the Russians must believe we'd be attacking frontally the entire time. The battle noise is fading. We don't know yet how far we have to drive around this well-defended position. According to the map, it should be close to 2 kilometers. Then we should be able to turn to an easterly heading again. A forested area appears. I don't like this at all. But nothing can be done. We have to go on. Our commander reports our location to the battle group commander. We are to keep engaging the enemy no matter the costs. We rumble across the poor forest trail into a stand of pine trees. It doesn't take long until the first shells impact. Just small calibers and no threat to our tanks. However, this doesn't make one feel comfortable. The pioneers have somewhat of a bigger problem. Fighting inside woods is a nightmare. You can barely see more than 20 to 50 meters ahead, and behind every tree, Ivan might sit. Out of our gut, we fire a few bursts with a machine gun toward the perceived threat and simply drive on. The pioneers are shooting into the trees with a machine gun from the armored personnel carrier. Here and there, a Russian topples out of the tops of the trees. After about 1,000 meters, the shooting stops. As we exit the woods, the Russians attack. A few BA-10s come racing up and are really trying to stop us without any heavy weapons. Of course, they can pressure us. But stopping a well-coordinated attack formation? Never. I assume they didn't have a way across the Donets any longer. Their attack is an act of desperation. We form up in a wedge formation and keep the armored personnel carrier in the middle. High explosive shells scream into the enemy and tear apart man and material. In between, the strings of machine gun fire from the pioneers, which is digging into the bodies of the onrushing Russians. We simply keep rolling on. They cannot stop us. A few brave hearts try to attack us with hand grenades, but in the tank's crossfire, even these attempts falter with the heaviest of casualties. We drive through a field of dead and wounded Red Army soldiers and don't stop until we reach a large berm. Here, with the aid of a map, we try to get a picture of where exactly we are. Indeed, by now we've almost made it all the way to the river. We now need to turn north in order to hit the opponent in the flank or maybe even from behind. We go across the berm. In the distance, we see smoke rising. This appears to be a right direction. Onward we go. Not even 30 minutes later, we can hear the bark of T-34 cannon fire. They aren't expecting us and feel completely safe. A hollow trail opens up for us. Closer and closer, we're able to approach the Russians' defensive position under cover. Now it's taking us a little downhill. Finally, we get to a Russian mortar position where it's really busy. One mortal shell after another is being flung against our attack spearhead from here. We open fire and the first hit blows up the Russian ammunition storage. The shock waves blows everything apart. When I take a look again, not one mortar is still in its spot. This was a sleight of God's hand. We keep pressing on further. 2 anti-tank cannons are spotted that are not, however, pointed in our direction. The Panzer III make quick work and move down the confused gun crews. Further, always further in order to keep the element of surprise. We must catch the T-34s in their dugout. If they manage to drive out and attack us, it would be ugly. The Russians are too surprised to organize any countermeasures. We keep advancing. Apparently, high-ranking officers who are viewing our tanks in shock with wide eyes emerge from 2 huts. No time to take prisoners. A few machine gun bursts in their direction. Whoever is still able to is running away like the devil. Now all hell's breaking loose. Hand grenades are being flung in our direction. Machine guns are hammering against the turrets. We fire all guns blazing. The pioneers by now have dismounted and are fighting against the wild bunch of Russian soldiers on foot. One of our tanks appears to have damage to its drive sprocket and falls behind. It's still providing covering fire for the pioneers. We keep driving further round a bend. There I see the boxes, deep pits, which are open in the back so that the T-34s are able to drive in completely. Well camouflaged against aerial reconnaissance, only the turrets are visible. Their 67mm cannons are firing to the west. They still have noticed that we're there. We take on the second tank in the line. The first one we leave up to the trailing tank of our comrades. Gun on target, loader reports loaded and ready, and command to fire is given. At the same moment happens the firing of the 75mm shell into the rear of the enemy tank. With primordial force, the turret is blown off the tank and is flung in a high arc in front of the position. A stream of flames shoots to the sky. We simply drive on. The other Panzer III has shot 50mm shells into the rear of the first T-34. It's also burning. Human torches are jumping out of the hatches who are dying in the fire of the infantry weapons. Burning or being shot. Are they a pleasant death? I don't want to think about that. We are in control and haven't won yet. Everything happens as in slow motion. Sweat is dripping off my forehead. The smoke inside the tank is enormous. But it must go on. We take on the fourth tank. It's gotten wind of us and is turning its turret to the rear. But the berms to its left and right are impeding it. Therefore, we are able to finish off that tank as well. By now, 4 enemy tanks have been taken out. The fifth and final Russian tank simply doesn't seem to fire. It doesn't matter. It receives a shell into the rear and it's burning. We have almost shot up all our ammo. Machine gun ammo is running low, and for the 75mm, not much is left either. We halt and secure our position. Our commander carefully lifts the head out of the hatch and risks a quick look around. Not a shot rings out. Over radio, we report the capture of the blocking position. With that, our part of the riverbank is firmly in German hands. Our spearheads advance, therefore we meet by the river. We keep securing the area until the infantry has caught up, and we are glad that we now finally have secure linked up. Everything is being searched and even the last remaining Russians are driven together. 3 more kills on the record. The old man should be happy. My commander is apparently also back with it. Everything worked out, and there were no problems. I hope things will remain that way and wonder where this whole war is going to take us. The burning Russian tank soldiers have left an impression on me. That won't happen to me. I would rather finish myself off than to burn inside a tank in hellish agony. We've resupplied with ammunition and gotten fresh fuel. A few of the Russians have been delegated to help us with restocking. They are also tank soldiers, quite young guys who haven't even sprouted beard hair. They look at us fearfully. Our radio operator gives them instructions in Russian. He's able to converse quite well. Later, we give the boys some cigarettes. After that, they become more talkative, and we find out that all the tanks weren't fully functional anymore and therefore had been dug in there. Now they are no longer of any use. We silently watch how the Russians pull their dead comrades, or rather, what's left of them, out of the destroyed tanks. Suddenly, there's a ruckus and then wild screaming, followed by shots and machine gun bursts. When I peek over the hill, a few dead Russians are lying dead on the ground, barely 50 meters away from the other prisoners, having been moved down by the machine gun watch of the armored personnel carrier. Quickly, it becomes apparent that the captured officers had tried to escape. We are not sure what to think of that. We again talk to our Russian helpers, and the matter becomes clearer. Rather dead than imprisoned, that's the motto of the officers. Apparently, they had also heard the horror tale that we evil Germans would execute all prisoners. Whatever, they choose their own path. I later talked to our military policeman and asked that we may keep the two young Russian tank men as helpers. If our platoon leader has no objections, that would be all right. So now we have two young Russians who can take care of small chores for us. For now, we send them back with a supply train. They also don't appear too unhappy about this. Then we make our way back to Kharkiv, this time on the direct route and without battle. I'm exhausted and sit on top of the turret. Rays of sunshine, announcing the coming of spring, warm our faces. We are looking forward to our quarters.